Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Finance and Accounting Show. And today we have another great guest on. Now, many of you know my background is accounting and finance, so I have a lot of appreciation for accounting. And today we have a great guest on that has a tax and financial services firm, which is extremely important for business owners. So stay tuned as we bring up Bill Hampton. Welcome to another episode of the Finance and the Accounting Show. This is the place to go for small business owners. If you're looking for a great way to understand the finance and the accounting side of your business, you're in the right place. So stay tuned and enjoy the episode. So without further ado, let me bring on Bill. Bill, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Terrell. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Bill, one of the things that I am very curious about is, how did you get into tax and financial services? So tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, sure. That's a great question, Terrell. Well, I started out my career on Wall Street. I was a licensed financial advisor for about 10 years or so. I made a career change and got a regular job with the government. But then I decided to go back into the tax and financial services field. So I started a firm with my partner back in 2010 doing taxes and financial planning. And in about 2012, I decided to go out on my own and start my own firm. And I've been doing taxes and financial planning ever since.
Gotcha. Now, what was it like transitioning from working, in the Wall Street environment to changing as you kind of made that decision?
Well, at first it was, a little bit different because you went from working for a company that was for profit and then going to, work for a government job, which is, not for profit. So I was still helping people. I was just helping people in a different manner. So that was a little bit of a change. And I think with the Wall Street is more focused on making a profit. And, obviously with the government, it's, whatever service you're providing, it's a service, but it's not about making a profit.
Gotcha. Now, how long did you work on Wall Street before you kind of came to that decision about that change?
It was about 10 years or so. And, Wall Street was great, but I just wanted something different and wanted something a little bit more job security at the time. Wall Street was going through a lot of mergers and acquisitions. I went through 2 mergers in 12 months at one company. So I was like, okay, let me see if I can find something where, I have some more job security. And that's why I, went to a different line of work.
Gotcha. It's one of those things that I realized, is hearing about mergers and acquisition from the outside. It sounds exciting, but when you're actually working in the companies that are going through it, it's not as exciting.
No, it's not. I mean, it's, you're not sure what's going to happen. Is your position is going to be replaced? Are you going to be kept on board? And, the first time I was kept on board and then the second time I wasn't. So it was, sort of good and bad. So I got to see it from both sides. And I just felt like, need a little more job security at that time.
Gotcha. Now, what was it about, taxation and kind of helping people in the area of tax services that interest you or attracted your attention?
Well, I have been doing my own taxes for a number of years, but I had never done them for the public. And then my partner, was a CPA. And, she had a lot of experience, doing taxes. So I was able to learn some of the techniques and as going from doing it myself to doing it for other people. But it was not that, difficult transition. It was still using the software, still inputting the information, but just looking at it from a different side, looking at it from the customer side versus looking at it from my personal, viewpoint.
Gotcha. Now, as you kind of made it down that journey, I guess, was there anything that you kind of leaned on that helped you kind of become more proficient at, understanding the tax and providing that service to the public?
That's a great question. There were a number of sources that made it easier. Obviously, my partner had the background in taxes. So, I was able to gain knowledge and get information from someone who has experience. And that's one of the things that I recommend to a lot of people trying to go into the industry. Before you decide to go out on your own, sometimes it helps to work with other people. And then that way you can see how a firm is run from the inside. And you can also get that experience that you need and that mentoring that you need. And before you go out on your own. And I think that's one of the great things that I learned is, partnering and finding a mentor was really very helpful for my growth as a business owner.
Gotcha. You bring up a very interesting point, because that's something that I consistently hear from a lot of them, and I advocate for that myself. Is learning from those who have been down the road, or those who are a little further down the road. Like, how was it, for you, and really just getting to that place of having the humility to just accept that wisdom and that advice?
Well, I mean, never being a business owner, there are so many different things that you don't realize that go into, starting a business. I mean, just finding office space, finding employees, interviewing employees, delegating responsibility. There were so many things that, I didn't know and I hadn't done before. And, especially being on the worker side, going to the ownership side. So it was, a great learning experience. And, I try to use that to help others and I give back. But everybody has to start somewhere. And there's no shame in saying, hey, you know what, I want to do this, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to do it on my own. Let me go and partner with somebody. Let me go and learn some things that I don't know, and some steps that can, make my journey a little bit easier. And that's the way I look at it.
Gotcha. Now, speaking of office space, where are you guys located?
Well, I no longer have an office. Several years ago, I decided to go 100% virtual, based on that experience of having an office and deciding that that's not the type of client I wanted. There are certain clients that go into a tax office, and then there are clients that are comfortable working remotely. So I've been working remotely for, several years now, long before the pandemic. So I had a lot of, experience. I had the technology in place. So when the pandemic came along, it didn't affect my business model at all. And, that was, purposeful, that, I wanted a specific type of client. So I just chose no longer to have an office.
Gotcha. And that's the interesting thing that I find that a lot of firms get into across any type of industry. I mean, it just businesses really becoming okay with the fact of like, hey, this is the type of client, or this is the type of relationship I want to have with my clients. And then feeling comfortable enough to say, hey, you know what? These are the type of clients that I'm going to target. Because what I find is a lot of people run into I guess just the scare of like, hey, I just got to accept anybody that wants to do business with me. So how did you get comfortable with the reality that, hey, you know what? These are the type of clients that I want, and that's what I'm going to target?
Well, I took the time to grow the business. And I wasn't in a rush. Like some people, I did, start out like most people do, with friends and family with my business and trying to get clients that way. And that helped. But, having a day job and being able to grow the business on the side was very, very important. And then I wasn't, stressed for the income. And that's the approach that I recommend to a lot of business owners. Start your business as a side hustle. Start it on the nights and on the weekends, and get to the point where, okay, you have the clients, and then you can go full time and then you can leave your day job. I've seen, people in the industry that said, I'm going to just jump in and I don't have the clientele, but I'm going to, make it that way. And that's an approach, but sometimes that approach doesn't always work. So I felt, for me, my approach was, build the business slowly, but target it to specific type of clients and find a niche. And I find that a lot of times successful business owners or successful advisors target a niche, and then they become an expert in that niche. And then you're able to get clients saying, hey, I'm an expert in this field. I'm an expert, with this type of client. And then that's the way that you grow your business, instead of just saying, I'm going to take everybody. But I mean, it is hard. If you don't have a spouse, or you don't have a full-time job, then that is going to be a little difficult, just going out on your own without having that other source of income to help you out.
Gotcha. Now, I guess as you kind of narrowed it down to your focus on like, hey, these are the type of clients that did that, I guess, help provide more clarity about, kind of the way you market or the way you network, the way you connected with people, was having a very clear image of, hey, these are the type of clients that I serve. Did that help you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it definitely helped because I was able to focus on the type of client I want because we had some things in background, had some things in common. Like I'm a real estate investor, and about 90% of the clients for my business are real estate investors. So I focused on a real estate investor website, and I was able to post content on there and make connections on this website. And that's how my business grew, and exponentially, because I was able to say, hey, I'm like you. I have the same background as you, and I can help you with your taxes. I can help you with your financial planning because I have the same problems you do. I've been through the same, questions and stresses of dealing with tenants. So I speak their language, and I can tell them that, my background is theirs, and they have that comfort level of working with somebody who has the same background and understands their language.
Gotcha. And then also speaking of your target audience, so when you think about, like I said, your target audience, what does that client look like? And kind of how do you describe who your target audience is?
Well, my clients are mostly new real estate investors. They're just starting out. They either are looking for their first property or they have their first or second property, but they need help doing taxes. They've probably able to do their own taxes on TurboTax, but once they, buy a property, then their taxes become, a little more difficult. They don't know what tax deductions they can take. They don't have a strategy for, ramping up a business because basically they're business owners. So they went from one day not being a business owner to the next day, I own a property and now I'm a business owner. And that's one of the things that I get across to them. I tell them, you didn't buy a house. You bought a business. You own a business now. And so I try to get them to see that change in mindset. And then also I help them structure their business, all of the nuts and bolts that they need to be a successful, real estate investors, things that some of them have thought about, but some things they haven't thought about. And then I go from educating them and advising them on how to run the business. Then we transition from that into, okay, well, this is how you can reduce your taxes and become more profitable. And so that's a large part of my focus. And then as they master that and as they grow as business owners, then we take a holistic look at their complete financial picture. So it's sort of a step-by-step process. Okay, I talk to them about my new real estate investor consultation, and we get into all the nuts and bolts. And then after that, we do tax return preparation. And then after that, we advance to tax planning because now that they have, multiple streams of income, they have, multiple tax issues. So I'm able to help them on different levels. And so that's one of the things that I bring to the table that a lot of other accountants and advisors, aren't able to do or don't do.
Gotcha. Awesome. So if people are interested in finding you online, how can they find you? What do they search for?
Oh, okay. Well, my website is Hampton Financial LLC, HAMPTON Financial LLC. That's it. That's my site. That has all the services that I offer. It has my contact information. They can schedule an appointment. They can sign up for my weekly newsletter. So they can, follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and I post every week. So there's a lot of good information and good content that I put out to help my clients.
Now, what can people usually expect between the tax tips and the tax videos?
Well, they can expect a number of different things. It's not all about taxes. Sometimes we talk about taxes. Sometimes we talk about, personal finance, sometimes it's, other things that are not really about taxes, about, hiring your children. So you're going to get a mix of different things, based upon the season. For instance, we'll talk about, tax planning as we get closer to the end of the year. Then maybe, towards the, January, February, we talk about what kind of documents you're going to need for tax return preparation. We talk about things, getting kids ready to go back to school in the fall. So we touch on a number of different topics. And so it's not all taxes, it's not all personal finance, but we do try to throw some things in there for, parents and family members and things like that as well.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Now, one of the ways you and I got connected was through Chip, the company Chip. So, changing how individuals prosper. So how did you get connected with the Chip company, and what has been your experience with their platform?
Okay. Well, I got connected through Chip, through the head of Chip, Dana Wilson. We had connected on LinkedIn because she was posting a lot of, content about, her new website, Chip and what it's designed to do. And Chip is basically a place for advisors of color and tax professionals of color to meet up with clients of color. And it was sort of like a revolutionary concept. I was like, wow, nobody's ever thought of this before. Why not have a place, where, people who are looking for clients or looking for advisors that had the same background or had the same, history to say, hey, let me reach out to somebody that understands me. And this was, right after the George Floyd incident. And a lot of times people were saying, you know what, I want to work with people that look like me. And there was a big push towards, supporting Black businesses and Black professionals. And, the timing was right, and she had a great idea. And I was just like, wow, I'm surprised nobody else had thought of this. And I looked into it, and I liked the idea of what she was trying to do. And I wanted to support, another Black professional. So I decided to sign up and, get connected with other people in my community who needed my services. Because what we find is in our community, a lot of times people need help, but they don't know where to go to get the help. Number one, or sometimes they're afraid to ask for help. So I felt like I have a great background to help people, because everybody needs to do taxes. That's sort of a given, and people in our community can need help with financial literacy and planning for their future, for their financial future. And I bring those skill sets to the table. So I decided to support Chip, become a member of Chip. And just last week, I was interviewed in Financial Planning magazine about Chip and about, the changes that they're making to the industry. And so I was happy to give my opinion and give my support to Chip and to Dana Wilson.
Nice. I love it. I love it. It's one of those things that I often tell people is that, there's been a lot of business owners that I've met that need advice or they need some direction and insight. And oftentimes, like you said, is they don't feel comfortable going with the people in their immediate area who they see because they just don't see people who look like them or people they feel like, hey, this person can connect. So I totally agree. I think it is a great platform for people who, hey, if you're looking to be supported by quality professionals who can relate to you, your story, your background. I mean, it's a great place to go. So that I'm glad you got connected with Chip.
Yes, and also I wouldn't have been able to meet you if it was not for Chip. So that's just that shows the power of bringing people together and the potential for networking there that Chip does.
Awesome. I love it. Well, before we wrap up, one of the questions that I love asking every guest that comes on is, when you think about your history and your story of where you've been and you think about where you are now, what's 2 pieces of advice that you would share with other business owners?
Well, first piece of advice is if you can, find a mentor, find someone who's doing what you're doing or is where you want to be and connect with that person. I find that in our community, there are a lot of people that, willing to help and willing to give back to others. And so that's something that I think is important for new business owners. You don't have to recreate the wheel. You can, find somebody and learn from them. And then the second thing I believe is that your business is not going to be the way you want from day one. It's going to take steps. And it's just like, climbing a staircase. Just take one step a day or one step a week or one step a month. and you'll get to that point, and you're constantly improving your business. I mean, there's still things that I'm learning and adding to my business, and I've been in business for a number of years because it's, networking, because, you learn about new opportunities and new service that you can provide by networking with people that are already doing what you're doing. And sometimes you can form partnerships where you may do something that someone else doesn't, so they can send clients to you, but you can also send clients to them for things that you don't do. So that's the other thing that I think is important is find a mentor and network with people in your line of work. And so that way you're able to build your business faster.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Bill, thank you so much. It's definitely been a pleasure having you as a guest on the show. So thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Terrell. It was a pleasure. And I say hi to everybody out there. Please reach out to me if I can help in any way. HamptonFinancialLLC.com.
Awesome. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Finance and Accounting Show. If you like what you heard, don't be selfish. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and then share this with a friend, because you know a business owner that could definitely use this insight. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and turn on the notification bell so you get all the updates when we release a new episode.